Good morning, everyone. My name is Carol Dao, and I'm your international shaman and healer, and welcome back to my channel. I had some thoughts the other day as I took a break from writing. I am currently one of the qualified candidates for Robert Bigelow's consciousness contest, where I'm gonna say there's probably about like 60-ish people from around the world who are qualified to submit their essay, which we could submit up to 25,000 word essay for the prompt of best evidence for the survival of human consciousness after physical death. And I'm in it. I mean, I'm doing 8-9 hours a day reading and writing, researching, outlining, piecing together everything that I have studied and researched in the last 6 years. In the last 6 years, I have studied and researched spirit releasement therapy, but also trying to basically finding the root cause of turmoil in one's soul. And I have traveled around the world to different energy vortexes on my own dime, separate from any type of research or studies. And in doing that, I also honed my intuition to a point that I trust and believe my intuitive state more than what is being said or told to me or showed to me at any given time. I also trained two students to sharpen their intuition, similar to how I sharpened my intuition. So I trust them wholeheartedly with scenarios and people and experiences. And they could travel to different realms and dimensions, similar to me, to tap into the esoteric sphere of a person. So that's what I've been doing. And I came across a Facebook post in one of these groups I'm in, and the post asked, how do you handle fear? How do you handle fear? Really? Question mark. Out of the 33 answers on this post in a group that has about 16,000 people, there was two people who I resonated with their answer. Everyone else was talking about handling it straight on, just going forward and just aping through. And when I say aping through, in my crypto and penny stocks groups right now, there's a thing about like aping in, and there are people who ape into these stocks. So they just come in like just a gorilla, and they're like, I need this stock, I want this stock, and like an animal. And it's not graceful, it's not effective, it's not strategic. And so they're just like aping into these stocks. And what happens to specifically these people who ape in? They lose their bags, and the bags is basically the stocks that they're just holding on to. So there are so many people about battling it head on, and taking it head on, and all of these things. And I'm sitting here like, why isn't anybody asking about their why? Like, why is the fear there in the first place? And you can't handle fear. That's basically treating the symptom. You're basically treating the symptom, not getting to the root cause of the illness. And there was one response, and he basically said, you don't handle fear. Fear isn't an emotion caused by a belief that something bad or negative is about to happen to you. You don't try to overcome it to handle it. You have to accept that it's there, find out the root cause of it, find out the right action to take it so it doesn't basically bother you again. And so the biggest mistake people have by making it with fear is to try to overcome it by facing it head on without knowing the root cause. This is by Emmanuel SV. And I will say this, I agree with him 100%. 100%. And if you take the percentage of the people on this post from 2 responses out of the 33 that understand that you don't handle fear, There's no taking it head on. There's no aping in about it. It's about going to the root cause and understanding the why. I'm going to add to Emmanuel's comment. You have to neutralize the meaning that you gave that experience when you first felt the emotion of fear. I've been a certified hypnotherapist since 2015. And what we were taught in Cal Banyan's 5-path course and training certification, we got to the root cause, and he drilled it into us that you needed to get to the root cause to neutralize the limiting beliefs, the misperception of however they gave meaning to the experience of the first time they felt X: fear, sadness, anger, guilt, shame. And this is how a lot of people see fear. And we're just talking about the fear that resonates from the first time we ever felt fear in this life or a past life, not the fight or flight mechanism in our body when we are feeling threatened. And so I had a thought about this, and I was thinking about gardens, the garden of fear, and how so many people, so basically we have a garden. We are born with a garden, and each person has their garden. But in each of our gardens, seeds were planted, not by us, because we were too small to plant seeds in our garden. The seeds were planted by our parents, our family members, significant other, whoever it was when we were younger. Those seeds were planted. And we had this garden that just started growing and growing and growing with limiting beliefs, misperceptions, perceptions. And growing up, we didn't know how to nurture our garden. And then there's weeds that grew all over our garden. So over time, right? A lot of people, they don't even know that they have a garden that they could mow, they could nurture, they could tend to. And so that's awareness. When somebody understands that, they're like, oh, I have a garden. And then they start noticing that what's in their garden is not feeling in alignment. It's not feeling in alignment with where they are in their life. That's awareness. And then they start they start buying tools, right? These are the modalities that we all come across. They start buying tools like shovels and things like that. And then they start weed whacking, and then they start weed whacking, trying to get through the jungle of the garden that wasn't attended to. And so it takes some time to kind of see and to kind of form, right? We could form this garden into like a beautiful landscape. But the seeds that were planted, the roots of these plants are still there. Those misperceptions, those limiting beliefs. And so many people decide, they're like, I'm going to get a lawnmower. I'm just going to mow it. And they mow the tops of this garden. And they're like, wow, this is a beautiful garden. It's my garden. This is perfect, right? This is what a lot of people do. I myself included, but this is part of the journey. You mow it, and you go and you do therapy, and you do yoga, and you do all this stuff. And you're like, oh, it feels good. I'm feeling good. And you start planting seeds, your seeds that you want to add to your garden. But these seeds that you're planting in your garden are right next to the roots of all those limiting beliefs, all those misperceptions. So it's crowded in your garden. There's no room to really grow, is there? The seeds that you planted, they're there. They're growing, but they're not growing really at a pace that you would like it to. because they're fighting for space underneath the surface from the roots of the weeds, of all the other seeds that everyone else has planted. So what do? You go to the root of the fear, the anger, the sadness, the guilt, the shame, and you pull it up. And when you pull it up, you make space so you can plant a new seed, a new belief, a new perception, a new feeling. So not many people want to pull it up from that root because the experiences that they felt from that root are painful. Some people would rather just mow their lawn, and that's okay. We all have a choice. We all have a choice to do what we want with our garden. Some people's gardens are bountiful and they harvest every season. It's a right type of garden that gives you fresh, luscious fruit, sweet. And there are others who have bitter melon. They have bitter fruit, dried, shriveled up, because they're not nurturing their garden. And so what these people do is they go to other people's gardens to take someone's harvest. These are what you call energy vampires, energy leeches, narcissists, takers, whatever it is. So it's all emotions are good. All emotions are good, you guys. All emotions are good. It's what we do with the emotion at that moment that defines how emotionally intelligent we are. When we feel an emotion, our job is to acknowledge it, feel it, bless it, let it go. That's to be in the state of flow. I don't care if it's happiness, if it's anger, sadness, guilt, joy, contentment, love. Most people, when they feel love, they want to hold it. When they feel happiness, they want to hold it. When they feel anger, they're like, "Oop, I don't even know. I don't want to know." Sadness, nope, suppressing it. All emotions are good. This is what makes us magnificent human beings, because we could feel. So you bless it and you let it go. But in order to do that, in order to be in the state of flow, you need to pull up those roots of anger, sadness, guilt, fear, shame. Pull them up. You bless it. You neutralize the meaning that was given, that you gave that experience in that moment from the first time you ever felt these feelings, so you could pull yourself forward to be in the present state. Like, for example, like somebody told me one time, they're like, "Carol, you're so fearless for what you do." Because I've ventured into countries on my own without knowing the language. I ventured to states. I ventured on these experiences where most people would never do. And it's because I honed and sharpened my intuition to such a way that I know how divinely guided I am, that they divinely guide me out of unsafe situations. And then they guide me to protective places and people. And someone told me I was fearless, and I was like, I still feel fear. And given that I do exorcisms and I live in the upside down and I see the dark force entities and the demonic beings attached, and they come to me, but I do sleep very well. But I do feel fear because that's human nature. We feel sadness. I feel sad. I feel fear. I feel angry, because anger is a feeling that's based upon, is it fair or not? I feel guilt, but you know what I do? I give myself grace and I let it go. In that moment, I allow myself to feel. If I need to spend 2 days to feel the feeling of sadness, You better believe I'm spending myself 2 days to process it and then release it. Process, bless, and release it. Fear, oh, you better believe. There's some moments I feel fear, but I start asking myself discerning questions. Is it my fear? Is it someone else's fear? What am I afraid of? Is this valid? And this is self-mastery. When you start asking yourself questions of the feelings that are happening inside of you. And when you do acknowledge these feelings that are happening inside of you, you bless them and you release them. You let them go to be in the state of flow. And it just really, that's when you're at a state of total freedom. Because everything that's happening around you, whatever someone's doing, it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. If somebody is blaming you, shouting at you, just yelling at you, or just speaking, so like they just have this negative energy, I bless them because they are in so much pain. Because their garden is just overrun and they have no clue how to even nurture it. You guys have a choice to continue mowing your lawn or take ownership of your garden and to pull it up from the roots, whatever it is that is overrunning your garden. Also, just on a side note, if you are not doing that due to the energetic shifts of the ascension of Mother Earth, these suppressed and repressed emotions are going to come out one way or another. And they come out in the weirdest ways. You guys ever heard of midlife crisis? It's not a midlife crisis. People who usually have a midlife crisis are people who have suppressed and repressed emotions, and it's just coming out of them because there's all these external circumstances that are they're intersecting with each other at that precise moment to trigger them in a way that the repressed and suppressed emotions, they just bubble up and they just have to go somewhere. And so people don't know how to deal with it and they act out. Reactive. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, please let me know below. Blessed be.